So moving forward to arc length and the surface area of revolution. So if you're going to solve the arc length and we're going to rotate your arc length, so it will generate into a area of a surface of revolution, or in other terms, or in simpler terms, it's just the surface area. So it's just like solving the area first and then revolving the area about a certain axis, so that will create a volume of solid of revolution. So it's the same concept here, but the formulas will now be different. So if you're going to analyze the formula for arc length, so these are the formulas. So one with respect to x, and then the other one with respect to y. So if you're going to ask me how are these formulas derived, so for example, this is your line segment. So let's say it's a curve. So from points 1 to point, and then you're going to create infinite number of segments. So murag circle, diba? So if you're going to zoom in the points of a circle, so those are just infinite number of line segments. That's why when we zoom out, so the surface or the anong curvature sa inyong circle kay perfect, diba? So murag ana ra pod siya. So we're going to divide it into different segments, and these segments will be your differential segment. So let's say this portion here, P6 to P7. So mura siya vertical and horizontal strip in the area, but since we are now dealing with a line or a curve, so what will we be getting from that particular line or curve is just a differential segment. So that's why it's ds. Okay, so if we're going to take out this ds, or let's say this particular ds, and then we're going to place it on the right side. So your ds is from this point going to this point here, differential segment. So again, if you don't know what differential segment is, so it's more likely like the differential strip in your area. So kato siya is differential strip for the area because we're dividing every segment with a differential rectangle. So that's why it's differential strip or horizontal strip or vertical strip. So for our line segment, so since we divided our line or our curve into different segments, so that's why it's called differential segment. So if we're going to create a right triangle, so for example on points 8 to 9, so if we're going to create a right triangle, so notice that the vertical portion or the vertical component of your differential segment will be your differential y, and then the horizontal component will be your differential x. Now since we are analyzing it using the right triangle, so we may use the concept of Pythagorean theorem. So Pythagorean theorem. So again, as per Pythagorean theorem, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So getting the square root to determine the hypotenuse, so that will be the square root of a squared plus b squared. Now if we're going to replace this one, this becomes the hypotenuse ds. And then our a squared and b squared will be your two legs. So dx squared plus dy squared. So notice that as we go along with the process of deriving the formula, so it further process of this equation here will lead to the given equations below the figures, which is in terms of dx, then the other one is in terms of dy. So I'm just giving you an idea where the formula came from. So di lang tayo mag-derive because the derivation aspect is not included in the exam. Alright, so if you're going to look at the formula, so it's more likely like the Pythagorean theorem, but You may say that the dx was divided to the other side or the dy was divided to the other side, but if you're really going to um, follow the derivation of the formula, so mas taas-taas pa siya. Dapat to yung mga midpoint. Sa kalimot ako, basta taas siya nga process. Alright? So just try to remember these formulas. So two formulas only. So one with respect to x, one with respect to y. Okay, so let's try to solve an example. So determine the length of y equals ln of secant x from 0 to pi over 4. So the range is in the x-axis, in the x direction. So what's nice here is that if you are given the limits of integration in the x direction, so automatically we use the formula with respect to x. Alright, so if we try to write the formula, so that will be from x1 to x2, then square root of 1. So how do you determine whether it's dy over dx or dx over dy? So if it's respect to x, so dy over dx. So that will be the formula. So again, for the graph is you'll be providing the solution, of course, on how you generated the graph. So medyo science siya because you are already given the range of the values for x. So you can just plug this one in the calculator using table mode, and then you can just create minor steps or minor intervals for your graph to be accurate. So you may use this range in your table mode. Let's say 0, and then the next step is, let's say, pi over 6, or you may make it even make your steps even smaller for the curve to be accurate. Okay, if you're just going to plug in 0 in the solution, in the equation, and then pi over 4 in the equation, so what you will have is just 2 points, diba? And you don't know whether the line is a curve or just a straight line, diba? Okay, you just only have 2 points coming from the range. So better that you have different points in between so that you know what particular graph you're going to generate. So whether it's a curve, whether it's a loop, or depende na siya sa inyong ma-generate na graph. Alright, so this one is the formula. So again, since we already have a hint that we should be integrating with respect to x because the given limits is in the x variable. So what we need to do first is we need to identify the different components. So our limits of integration is already determined, given in the problem. So what's left for us to determine is this dy over dx. So to start off is we're going to first put the equation here. Y is equal to ln secant x. So that's the value of your y parameter. So again, as per basic solution or calculation of your derivatives, so we're going to get dy, then derivative with respect to x. Then this is the time that we're going to derive your ln secant x. So again, as per derivative of ln, that will be du over u. So derivative of secant x, this will be secant x tangent x all over secant x. So again, this one, for those of you who have forgotten your derivatives, this is du all over u. So again, this is ln of. Alright, so cancel out second, so dy over dx is equal to tangent x. Alright, so you may plug this one in the calculator, or I mean in the formula. So you're going to have L is equal to, so our limits is from 0 to pi over 4. And then the square root of 1 plus tangent squared x dx. So of course you may plug this one in the calculator, but in my case is, since I know that this portion here is an identity, so I can just replace this one with this corresponding value, which is secant squared. So this becomes secant squared x dx. And then simplifying further, this becomes 0 to pi over 4 secant x dx. So I think this one is much better to input in the calculator compared to the square root function. So muna siya, so just try to help your calculator. And notice that since our limits is in pi, so we have pi over 4 as the upper limit, so we should make use of the radian mode. So radian mode. So if you try to compare the difference, so again, secant x, so there's no secant x in the calculator, so what you need to do is 1 over cosine alpha x, then from 0 to pi over 4. So the answer is 0.88. So since it's in length, so it's 0.88, then units. Okay, so don't forget the family name of your values. So if it's volume, it's cubic units. If it's area, it's square units. If it's distance, length, or any one-dimensional measurement, that would be units. All right, so I think it's clear, diba? So the formula is short and it's easy to apply. I think the difficult part will be the, again, ang difficult part yun sa applications is the graphing portion. Right, so this is the equation, I mean the solution. So you may be at this point only, or if you don't want to simplify further, so pwede ra po diri dapita, then use the calculator to get 0.88 units. Okay, so we also do this portion here. After getting dy over dx, so you may get the squared function directly. So dy over dx squared. All right, so questions for the first item. Wala ra. Pwede ra to. Pwede ra to. 2 decimal lang. Or pwede sa inyo inayin na inyong hot doon ang kanang gibutang sa calculator sad. Kay that's what my classmate did before sa college pod. Murag para sure ko no iya ko nung i-inputanan na. So mga 9 ka decimal place ana. Depende sa makita sa screen. Pero pwede ra sad 2 or You don't want to round off your answer, so if the answer is in fraction form, so you may also present your answer in fraction form. So pwede siya 45 over 3 pi, ana. So pwede rin siya inanasad. Okay, so any further questions? Right, so I think there's no question. So let's try to proceed. Okay, so this time is we're going to determine the length of this complicated equation. X equals 2/3 times y minus 1 to the power of 3 halves. So the length is between y, in the range of y, from 1 to 4. So y is less than, so y is greater than and equal to 1, but less than and equal to 4. Okay, so this is the 1 point here, this is the 4. So again, if you're going to plug in 1 and 4 in the equation only in creating your graph, so you don't know that your graph is a straight line or not, diba? So muna, pwede mo magbutang og, let's say, value of 2 baron. So let's say y is equal to 2, so this is point here, then y is equal to 3, diba? So kana, if you have 4 points, so kana, kibawa na muna, it's curving. Diba? It's not a straight line. So again, provide solutions in creating your graph. So again, since the range is in the y direction, so our formula should be so we're going to use the formula with respect to y. So this will be from y1 to y2, then square root of 1. So if you're going to place dy here, so the dy is in the denominator, then dx in the numerator. So that's one way of remembering the formula in a faster manner. So if it's respect to y, so ang iyang atbang is nasa denominator ang dy sad. So earlier, if you try to review the recording later, so the dx is also in the denominator if it's with respect to x. Okay, so going into dx over dy, so that will be x is equal to 2/3 y minus 1 to the power of 3 halves. Then getting the derivative, so that will be 2/3. So again, exponential rule in the differentiation process. 2/3 times 3 halves, so bring down the exponent, y minus 1. Then 3 halves minus 1 is 1 half. And then the derivative inside the base, or the derivative of the base, y minus 1, is 1. So again, if you don't know, if you forgot the process, so this is u to the power of n, then the derivative is n times u to the power of n minus 1 du. So cancel 2/3 and 3 over 2. So what is left is the square root of y minus 1. Or if you don't want the square root, so you can have it as y minus 1 to the power of 1 half. So this is your dx over dy. So again, you may directly determine the squared aspect of your dx over dy. So squared. So this becomes y minus 1. So eliminating the radical expression because we are getting the square of dx over dy. So we're now ready to plug in the value. So L is equal to, so again that will be from 1 to 4, and then the square root of 1 plus y minus 1 dy. So from 1 to 4, square root of 1 plus y minus 1 dy. So eliminating 1 and negative 1. So what is left is just from 1 to 4, the square root of y dy. So again, you may plug this one in the calculator. You may also plug this one in the calculator if you are too lazy to simplify the equation. Yeah. Usually, para sigurado, di ba? Dirigid ta sa, sa original. So again, since our limits is now in the whole number, so there's no pi value. So you may shift to degrees mode. So dapat naka letter D na ang nasa inyong calculator. Then you may integrate. So again, the default variable for the calculator is x. So instead of square root of y, you're going to plug in square root of x. So the answer is 14 over 3. So again, if you don't want to make it in decimal, so pwede siya 14 over 3 or 4.67 units. So that will be the answer. Alright, so questions? Sisiw na, nagkadugay, nagkasisiw. Okay, so there's no question, so let's proceed to the surface area. So this is the answer, by the way. So again, you may be up until this point only, or at this point, if you want to simplify, or if you want to help your calculator with answering your equation. Okay, so let's now go to the surface area. So what we need to do is we're just going to rotate your your arc length with a certain axis. So let's say it may be in the x-axis or it may be in the y-axis. So ano man siya, no? So dapat isa lang naka-x, duha man siya. Okay, so let's say we're going to rotate your line segment or your arc length with respect to x. So if we're going to rotate it, it's going to generate this surface area. So it may look like a volume, but what we're after is just the exterior portion, just the arc length. That's why it's called surface area, diba? It's just the surface or the exterior portion of the solid. And I think you know already what surface area is because it's in your solid geometry. So in deriving the formula, so there are just two ways. So if we're going to rotate with respect to x, so I mean if you're going to rotate your arc length in the x-axis, so the moment arm is in the y aspect. So notice that you have a 2 pi here, 2 pi y, and then 2 pi x. So where did this came from? So of course the rest is very familiar because it's coming from the formula of the arc length. So the 2 pi y and the 2 pi x came from the, so you may understand this as your differential volume or differential disk, but this time it's going to be a differential circumference. So for example, we're going to create a circle. Let's say from this point here, point 2. So upon rotation, so you're going to create a circle. And again, since you're only touching the edge, so what you're after is the circumference of the circle. Ba, ang kanirang inyong isolve ra ang circumference of the circle. So this will be the radius. And of course, determining the circumference of the circle is 2 pi r, di ba? Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So muna siya at any point. So regardless of you're going to create it at different locations, so you are just solving the circumference of the circle of that representative differential point or differential segment. So if there is, so still differential differential circumference. So it's like you're adding up multiple numbers of circumference to generate the surface area, di ba? So, huwag mo siyang imagine. So, if you're going to stack up your 1 peso coin, so you're going to start off with 1 sa, di ba? Then you're going to put many coins on top of each other. So, katong edge ato niya is mo to ang circumference niya. Mo to siya ang inyong surface area. So, notice that in the formula, so if it's rotated about the y-axis, I mean x-axis rather, so the radius is perpendicular to the axis of rotation. So since we are rotating in the x-axis, so notice that the radius is y. So if we're going to rotate about the y-axis, so the radius of your circumference will be perpendicular to the y-axis. So that's why the radius in the second formula is x. So again, it's all coming from the circumference of the circle, 2 pi r. So the radius should be perpendicular to the axis of rotation. So if it's rotating about the x-axis, so the radius is y. If it's rotating about the y-axis, so the radius is x. So murag-mura siya ang napuno sa formula, 2 pi r, or the circumference of the circle. So strictly in this format, so there's no other format for this one. So example number 1, so let's say you're going to determine the surface area of this equation, y equals 9 minus x squared, from negative 2 to 2 about the x-axis. So you have many hints in the equation. So limits is from negative 2 to 2. So meaning if you're going to graph your equation, so again, you're going to plug in different points for you to create the perfect curve. Because if you're just going to place negative 2 and 2 in the equation, so you'll be only having 2 points, diba? So let's say if you're going to plug in negative 1, so you have this point here, let's say 0, then 1. So you're going to have a curve. So it's rotated about the x-axis, so meaning our radius should be in the y direction. Or if sa kanipalandaan rotated about the x-axis, so automatically write the formula 2 pi from x1 to x2. So pwede na po niyo isuot ito ang formula. Even though kanang bala na kanang walay understanding why the formula is siya yung gamiton, basta if it's rotated about the x-axis, muna siya ang formula. Automatic. Okay, so we're going to determine y. So of course, y is the given equation, di ba? Kaya that will be the radius. So why it's the radius? Because again, if this one is the x-axis, so going towards this portion here, you are touching this equation. And that is what will be rotating about the x-axis. So that's why y is equal to the square root of 9 minus x squared. So okay na siya, di ba? So what's left for us to determine is dy over dx squared. So dy over dx, so this will give us, so in exponential form, this is 9 minus x squared to the power of 1/2. So bringing down 1/2, and then 9 minus x squared to the power of negative 1/2. So that will be the equation for dy over dx. So getting the square of dy over dx, so dy over dx squared. So if we're going to create this in radical expression, that will be 1/2 square root balik. Okay, sayop siya. So this becomes 1/2, and then 1 all over the square root of 9 minus x squared. Because again, it's to the power of negative 1/2, so you need to bring it down into the denominator. So this becomes 1/2, 1/4 rather, 1/4. Ato na lang iswatanan kay para maklaro jud. So 1/2, then times 1 over square root of 9 minus x squared, and then square, di ba? So you're going to have 1/4 times 1 over 9 minus x squared. So dy over dx is equal to 1/4. So pwede rin siya 1/4, ana. 1/4 times 9 minus x squared, ana. So pwede rin po siya, ana. So let's try to see if sakto tong kan. Sayop tayo, sayop. So atong ibalik lang kay magsayop ko sayop. Murag akong discuss kanina nya ako po dyan na sayop. So try to review jud everything kay para. So ang kuwang dire is sakto na ni siya. This will be, di ba? U to the power of n. So this should be n u to the power of n minus 1, and then du pa day. So what's missing here is the derivative of the base. So this is 0 minus negative 2x. So mo din na siya ang kuwang day. So cancel out 2, cancel out 2. So what is left is negative x all over 9 minus x squared, square root. Okay, so that's what's missing earlier. So I forgot the derivative of the base. So muna siya ang derivative, negative 2x. So getting the square, so dy over dx squared. So if we square negative 1, So that would be positive 1. If we square x, that will be x squared. If we square root of 9 minus x squared, that will be 9 minus x squared. So this will be the value for your dy over dx. So since the determination of the different parts is now complete, so we can now proceed with the formula. So that will be 2 pi from negative 2 to 2. Then your y, again, is the equation because the circumference is obviously the line that you're going to rotate. So 9 minus x squared. Then times the square root of 1 plus x squared all over 9 minus x squared dx. Okay, so simplifying by combining the fraction, we're going to have 2 pi from negative 2 to 2 square root of 9 minus x squared. So this becomes 9 minus x squared plus x squared all over 9 minus x squared. So cancel out x squared. So what's left in the equation is you're going to have 2 pi. So square root of 9 minus x squared times the square root of 9 over 9 minus x squared. So notice that this portion here can be separated, which gives us 2 pi. So properties of radical expressions. So this one is 9 minus x squared. And then this becomes square root of 9 all over square root of 9 minus x squared. So notice that we can cancel this one out. We can cancel this one out. And what is left is 2 pi from negative 2 to 2. And then, so dx here. So notice that what is left is just the square root of 9. So square root of 9 is 3. 3 dx. And you may now use the calculator. So I think this one is better to plug in the calculator, di ba? Compared to this one. So because there are instances wherein the calculator cannot solve the equation. So even though nga powerful ang calculator, so napod siya limitations. So that's why you need to help out the calculator also. Okay, so the answer is 24 pi, or in decimal, that will be 75.4 or 75.4. So since it's surface area, two-dimensional, so square units. Okay, so this will be the solution. So determine y first, determine dy over dx, then dy over dx squared, and then use the formula. So upon using the formula, so if you get to this point and if you see that the calculator needs help, so you simplify everything, and then what's left for you to do is plug in the simple equation. Okay, so do you have questions for this example? Sige, sa man. Pwede ra. Kani, if you want to plug this, dili ra. Kani, if you want to plug this one in the calculator, kani siya. Kani pa lang a portion. So, pwede kayo, but wala ginalagi. Naay murag instances nga dili kaya sa calculator or basin dugay mo gawas ang answer ba. Possibly kay kanang kuan duha ra man na ang magawa sa calculator. It's either ang iyang ibutang kay can't solve kay medyo nagkalisod siya, or if you have plugged in the wrong equation, so ingon siya math error, or katong answer na, which will take time if you plug this one in the calculator kay you are dealing with radical expressions. So muna siya, so murag, so kung tanaw ninyo medyo maka-involve na mo og mga square root, mga radical expressions. So kana mag-manual jud mo og kanang kuan lang gamay kay para makatabang sa calculator. Okay, so any questions? Any further questions? Okay, so there's none, so let's proceed. So y equals, so rotating about the y equals cube root of x from 1 to 2, then about the y-axis. So about the y-axis, so the blue line here is the graph. So starting from 1 and then going to 2. So of course, since it's just very small distance, so you may have 3 points siguro, 1 and then 1.5. Let's say 1.5 is here. No. Or if you want to get more lines, so pwede sa dinyo 1.25, 1.5, 1.75 to get 4 points. 5 by 5. So 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and then 2. So rotating about the y-axis, so our radius is now the x portion. So muna siya yung ma-create na kuan. So lisod kay graph. Kay murag gamay kay akong tablet. Mabasa mo na siya. lisod siya i-kuan. Okay, so about the y-axis man da, and so there are a lot of information that we can gather in the given problem. So all in y aspect. So formula is 2 pi. So again, since we are in the y direction. So again, since we're rotating about the y-axis, so the radius of the circumference is x. Then square root of 1. So again, technique here is since we are differentiating, or integrating with respect to y, so dy should be in the denominator. Squared. Okay, so we need to determine x first. So since the given equation is y equals cube root of x, so translating this one into x equals y, so this becomes x cubed equals baliday. So let's try to rotate it first. Cube root of x equals y, then getting the cube. So this becomes x equals y cubed. So okay na ta sa x. So x value is this one. So next is determining the dx over dy, or the derivative of x. So this is 3y squared. And then getting dx over dy squared. So that will be 3y squared. and then squared. So you are going to get 9. So square of 3 is 9. Square of y squared is y to the power of 4. Right, so everything has been determined. And again, since you are given the limit, so muna po siya. So 2 pi from 1 to 2. And then again, the x value is y cubed. Square root of 1 plus 9 y to the power of 4 dy. Okay, so you can plug this one in the calculator. So for sure, dugay pa kaya na siya magawa ang answer. Okay, to the power of 4, and then napay y cubed sa gawas. So basin, dugay-dugay pa na siya. So the answer for this one, so if we try to refer it with the 199.48. So the answer is 199.48 square units. So of course, if you want to help the calculator, so you can see that this one is to the power of 4. This one is to the power of 3. So the outer portion is lesser degree than the inner portion. So you may use u sub. So 1 plus 9y to the power of 4. And then du is equal to 36y cubed. So notice that this one is y cubed. And then dy. So 36y cubed dy. Then this becomes du all over 36 equals y cubed dy. So this becomes 2 pi from 1 to 2, and then square root of so this becomes the square root of u, and then du all over 36. So this becomes pi over 18 from 1 to 2 square root of u du. So determine first the integral of square root of u. So this becomes pi over 18, and then the derivative of, the integral of square root of u is so ito u to the power of 3 halves, okay, plus 1 naman ano, over 3 halves na. So this is from 1 to 2. So pi over 18 na murag mahog nga magmanual mo ani, pero mo lagi mas para na ako mas sure siya. So 2/3 and then u to the power of 3 halves. So you're going to have pi all over, so 9 times 3, 27, and then u, so bring back the value of u, that will be 1 plus 9y to the power of 4, 3 halves from 1 to 2. Then evaluate manually, so 199.48. So again, if di mo ganahan magkuhan, if magwat lang mo sa calculator, so pwede ra jud kayo. So given lang siguro nga nadyo ihatag ang calculator. So if wala, so medyo lisod-lisodan dapita jud. Okay, so this is the answer. All right, so questions? Okay, so no questions. So I'll be uploading a small problem set for the topics. So this is for arc length. So just 4 items. And then surface area, 5 items. Hmm. Hmm. I-kuan lang, i-show lang na partially lang balag batig na akong basta at least kuan siya na. I-irritate lang jud siya. Para at least kuan po na sa inyong parts. It's a learning experience. All right, so further questions? Okay, so I think there's no question anymore. So that's it for today, and